Yay, we're already best friends.
I know, right? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Human Design Hotline. My name is Maureen Webb. If you haven't guessed already, my guest and I have been shooting the shit for already an hour, and I was like, maybe I should hit record. So, if we're all giggly and silly and we're talking about things that maybe don't make sense, it's because we've been talking for an hour. So it is my honor and pleasure, and my nerd heart is just so excited to introduce Anna Kinney to you. And before I even let her talk, I have to tell you, I think I fell in love when she filled out my form and she was like human design and music. And I was like, fucking sold. Let's do it. So that's where I'm coming from. This is completely selfish on my part because I can. It's my podcast, right? So welcome, 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 Anna. Please tell everybody with that beautiful voice of yours all of the things.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I have to say, also, when Maureen responded to the form I filled out, you could the excitement was palpable through the email. I don't think I've ever read an email that I felt the emotion through it like that. And I was like, oh, she's this excited? Oh man, we're just gonna sacral ping off of each other until we just explode in giggles. Uh,
Yes,
so
is
so
accurate.
thank you for having me on and welcoming me into your little corner of the interwebs and life. So I'll give my tagline. I call it my human design tagline. I contain the potential possibilities of all the spectrum of expressions of what it is to be a 5-1 emotional manifesting generator, left angle cross of industry, um, 4 defined centers, a single definition, 3 out of 4 integration
Yes, you
channels
do.
defined. I have the 59-6, the wave of all waves. I'm here. I'm big. You can't I'm like a large planet that pulls asteroids into its gravitational orbit and you either burn up or you start rotating around. Uh um I'm a Leo sun, Leo rising, Mars Leo,
Mm,
Sagittarius stellium,
this makes
Aquarius
sense.
moon,
This makes
no
a lot of sense.
water. I have no
Yeah.
water in the chart. I married a Scorpio with 5 Scorpio placements. He makes up for all the water I don't have.
God bless you. I bless you because my dog, Mr. Myers, was born on 11/13, Friday the 13th, and I said he will be the last Scorpio man I ever love. I just can't. I can't do. I'm an Aries with way too many Aries placements to be fucking around with somebody with 5 Scorpio. No,
Well,
I'm
see,
good.
but like I've had this discussion with some astrologers before, and I feel like first of all, Leo and Scorpio are both fixed, and
Yeah.
like that can cause problem. Like, I feel like Leo and Taurus are more butt
Oh
heads
yeah.
more than Leo and Scorpio might.
Mhm.
But Scorpio is like it's like a hot water. It's like a murky, fiery water. It's got lots of transformation in there. You know, you go from the Scorpio to the eagle to the phoenix, and phoenix is fiery, right? Scorpion lives in the desert. You know, it's like a dry, hot, fiery water. So I feel like
Yes.
somehow the Leo just I don't know. We just I mean, we didn't get together until I was 35 and he was 30.
Okay.
And
Oh,
so we'd already been kind of on our own journeys of,
yeah.
figuring out who we were for quite a while. It's not like we weren't high school sweethearts. We didn't get together when we were super young, nothing like that.
Mhm.
We only just got married last year. I just turned 41. So, I don't want to say we're late in the game. We're right on time, but we've been on our own journeys and weren't screwing around,
No,
with stuff that wasn't right for us anymore. And then we finally found each other. So, yeah.
I love that.
So, Yeah, me too.
I love that. I have to say, I apologize. I didn't mean to like jump in on that, but man, I was like, oh, Maureen, Scorpio. Okay, we're gonna please. I know you have done so much, like the one line. You have lots and lots of things that you have done that you can put behind your name. Can you please impress these listeners with all of the amazing things that you have done? Because I looked at that and I was like, damn, that's pretty amazing.
I mean,
That's
starting when? How far back do you want to go?
how far back do
Because
you want to go?
I'm also I'm a one line 5-1 manifesting generator. I have done a lot. I've been around the block a lot.
Your
So like,
favorite seven certifications?
okay. Well, actually, I've actually done pretty good at restraining myself, mainly due to like cost being a prohibitive factor.
For sure.
And my emotional wave, being the
Hmm.
59.6, I take forever to make a decision when it comes to investing in something like, I
Yeah.
mean, if it's like $100, it's like okay, sure, whatever. But
Yeah.
if it's like a $4,000 or a 10,000, like I sit on that for a long time. So okay, I'll start with the most recent stuff. So
Okay.
I'm currently a student of Karen Curry Parker. In her world, I am certified quantum human design specialist up to level 2. I'm about to finish getting my level 2 quantum alignment system practitioner certification. I just have like 3 more sessions I have to do. Um and with that, she also created a story lab, which is like her trademarked personal narrative rewrite process. I'm a story lab facilitator as
Nice.
well, which is really cool. I'm delivering a keynote speech on it in 2 weeks for the first time, and I'm so jazzed up about it. I'm so excited. It's really cool work. So, she can be controversial for people in the human design world, but at the end of the day, she just got her PhD in studying this stuff and
Mhm.
did her own empirical research and experiments, and it's undeniable that this stuff works. So, it's awesome. I'm also a Reiki master. Um what other certifications do I have? Jeez. I used to be a wilderness first responder.
Stop it.
Um, so that was like 3 lifetimes ago. I
Uh-huh.
lived out west for a couple of years and I worked for Environmental Conservation Corps, and I was a crew leader, and I had to have my wilderness first responder certification because we were often very far from hospitals
Yeah.
and using tools and chainsaws and things, and so I needed to be able to that basically was one step down from being a wilderness EMT. So the only things that a wilderness EMT can do that I couldn't was um, set a broken thumb,
Okay.
and there was something else. I don't remember what it was. There was like 2 things that like we weren't technically allowed to do because they were too risky and complicated. Like a thumb is, for some reason, thumbs are weird. Like because they're opposable, they're not like, it's not like if you break a finger and you can just set it and splint it and it'll be
Mhm.
fine. But a
Yeah.
thumb has different weird angles, and it's like a little, got a little mini rotator cuff in there kind of.
Oh, I
So
never even thought about that.
it's yeah, it's a different thing. You're not as a wilderness first responder, you're not allowed to do that because you could be like legally liable if you screw something up on somebody. But I learned how to set a femur. I learned how to create, like a litter out of rope and trekking poles.
Wow.
We did basically these big like role play scenarios where people came in
Hmm.
and were like acting
Yeah.
like they had been burned because their camping stove exploded in their tent, and we
Hmm.
had to triage them and take action
Yeah.
according to what we thought was the best action to take and all that sort of stuff. And it was intense. It was like a 9-day long thing. So I had that. It's not valid anymore because I didn't keep renewing it, but I had that experience. That was cool. I used to have my real estate license. I did that for a while,
Uh-huh.
early on. My college degree was in international relations with a minor in sociology. So
Wow.
studying politics for 4 years to me running to the woods, and then went to went to California and started doing
I find
conservation
nothing
work.
wrong with that.
That was the sequence there. I studied politics, and then I went to California and lived in the woods for 3 years, and then I came back to New York and worked a variety of different jobs before I settled in. I worked in a retail outdoor store for a number of years,
Uh-huh.
and then I started playing music with this band. Um, and it was a duo, and I'd been playing music most of my life. I
Hmm.
started out playing the viola in third grade
Hmm.
and played that all the way up through college.
Yeah.
I played piano. I taught myself guitar when I was 16, and those were my three main instruments for a number of years. And then
Mm.
college and adulthood, young adulthood, I kind of like faded away from playing some of those instruments. Every now and then I'd pick up a guitar at a party and people would be like, "Oh wow, you can play a guitar, cool." Like, "Oh, she sings too, cool." But that was about the extent of it for a long time. I dated other musicians a lot. I supported musicians a lot. I listened to music. I went to music festivals. I loved music, but I didn't really play it a whole lot until I met this fellow named Chris James, and
Mm.
our voices blended. Like I love singing harmonies, and
Yeah.
our voices sounded so good together. I was like, what is it going to take? What would it take for us to like play music together? He's like, well, you got to play an instrument as well as sing. So I was like, okay. And I went and I got my viola from home, and I was trying to play it, but my bow arm was all out of practice, and
Oh no.
I didn't have the control to make it sound good. It sounded like I was back in first grade again. So I started turning the viola and playing it like it was like a ukulele kind of a
Nice.
thing. And he kept saying, he's like, well, you keep playing that as if it's a mandolin. Why don't you just go get a mandolin? So I
Okay.
went I went and found a cheap bottom of the rack kind of mandolin at a pawn shop and started
Uh-huh.
learning, and it's basically the same as a violin. Mandolin, violin. It's just a different family of instruments, but mandolin and a violin have the same strings and the same tuning.
Hmm.
I grew up playing the viola, which is only like a string tuned a string lower than the violin, but it's the
Okay.
same basic like finger pattern. It's also
Okay.
tuned in fifths, and it's the same finger pattern. So to go from viola to violin was like nothing.
Uh-huh.
And I picked it up pretty quickly, and within a few months we had our first gig and we started playing shows and music festivals together, and I did that project for 7 years. And it was mostly him and I as a duo, but over the years we'd have one summer where a bass player would join us for the
Hmm.
summer, and then we'd have another year where we'd have one year we had a bass player and a guy on a washboard, and just different people. We had different configurations kind of over
Yeah.
the years. And so that kind of like got me back into really playing music again. And it was in the last year of playing with him that I met my now husband, and
Hmm.
he was in a band. He played guitar and sang in his own band. And then, we started dating. I left the band I was in for various reasons.
Uh-huh.
It was toxic and it just wasn't good anymore. But
Yeah.
I left that, went through an identity crisis, came out the other side, and then COVID hit.
Mm.
And so then my husband's band kind of dissolved.
Yes.
And we were going on Facebook Lives every Sunday or Saturday morning
Uh-huh.
and playing Beatles tunes
Oh.
during lockdown. And all of our friends, all of our festival friends, all of our music friends would hop on, and they'd all be talking, they'd be making requests, and people were singing along while we were, it was just like that was just such a like the nostalgia, like thinking back on that time. It was a
Yeah.
hard time to be in, right, for everybody, and that
Mm.
was like the one of the ways that we felt like we could bring our people together even
Mhm.
when we couldn't be together, sort of a thing. And that kind of launched us into starting our duo, which is we call it Virgil's Lantern. It's just the two of us.
Oh.
And sometimes we have a friend who plays like he plays like djembe. He'll hop in
Uh-huh.
on a gig here and there with us, but we play mostly like kind of like folky, some country,
Mhm.
some not it's not bluegrass, but just sometimes we play some like obscure 90s
I
covers.
love it.
Like Champagne Supernova will randomly play sometimes. Or I don't know, just other things like that. And then we have like our cutesy songs. Like we'll play a Simon and Garfunkel song. We'll play a few Beatles songs. This stuff that's like the crowd pleasers. Get the older folks who are like,
Oh,
"Oh, these guys are great," And then we'll play some more modern stuff like Tyler Childers or Watch House and other
uh-huh.
bands that just kind of really fit our vibe. And he
Mm.
sings lead most of the time, and I sing some harmonies, and it's just really nice. So that's where we are now. And I have like sound healing instruments that I like to kind of mess around with. I don't do like live sound healing events or anything, but I
Uh-huh.
like to make my own mantra meditation music.
Mm.
Um, and so with my podcast, I made my outro, and I made like little transition sounds and things like that, and it's just nice to be like fully sourced. I as a one line, I'm like I am my own source of all these things, and I have the capacity. So I don't know, I just like doing that. It's been a fun kind of curve in the road to
Yeah.
go from the previous band I was in. We were like playing as fast and as loud as possible, and it was like exhausting, and we were like usually the late night band playing till 3 o'clock in the morning, and now Virgil's Lantern, we're like the dinner band. We're like, or like even brunch, we're a good brunch band.
I love
So,
that.
and it's relaxing, and like I can play a 3 hour gig and still have energy to like go home and do laundry and like go grocery shopping. Whereas before it was like a gig used to just totally take everything out of me, and I'd crash so hard I couldn't do anything else. So
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that just hearing, and I know you're not even done telling us all of the magic that
I don't
happened.
even know where I was going. That's where
I'm
I
just
ended
like,
that
oh my
segment.
God. I know that you're not supposed to have favorite profiles, just like you're not supposed to have a favorite kid. Um, but I simply adore 5 1s and 1 3s. Like those are my favorites. And I think it's because I don't have any ones in my profile
Mm.
that I gravitate towards 5 1s. And maybe it's even being valleys or feeling cognition. I don't fucking know. All I know is like just hearing your voice is so pleasant. Like I can't, there are times where I can't listen to people because I don't like the sound of their voice.
Hmm.
Yours is just like immediately just, it's gonna be, I don't know what she's gonna say. I don't care what she says. Just keep talking. Just keep talking. And I say all of this because as a 5 1, you have this 5 line, and 5 lines are, we know that they're the fixer. We know that, the guilt when it's your motivation. One of my favorite things about the 5 line is frequency, acoustic, and music.
Yeah.
So can you are you able to walk us through how music feels to you so that we who don't have the fives can get that experience as best we can?
Mm. Well, so that's I feel like I ask this sort of question to people on my podcast all the time, and they're like, "But it's not that easy to answer." So what I would say is it's gonna be different depending on the
Mhm.
circumstance.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like this is the sort of question that launched me into doing this research via my podcast because I'm like, wait, but what are the energetics underlying
Hmm.
a lot of this, right? And you're correct, like the fifth line, the fifth color, the fifth tone
Yeah.
have certainly a lot to do, and also individual circuitry in general.
Yes.
All individual circuitry has an acoustic quality to it.
Hmm.
I have three out of my four channels are integration individual,
I
and
love
I
it.
have the five line in my conscious
I love it.
profile. So it's definitely very strong. I do find that there's something in hearing certain things in the music. And so here's something.
Yeah.
Way before I ever had the idea or inkling that I would make a podcast, when I was at a music festival one time, well, one of many, and I am a listener to the lyrics.
I was just going to ask you that
Okay.
question. Are you a lyric nerd like I am?
That is one of the questions I ask people in their form that I send them before they come on the podcast. I ask them, if you could only choose one of these aspects of music, which would you choose? If you couldn't have, you could only have one.
Ooh.
Would you choose the lyrics or would you choose the rhythm? Because there are rhythm people and there are lyrics people. And there are people that are both, right? There are people that are like, "Oh, I can't choose. I like, music is all of it. I need all of it." And typically, people that are lyrics people have heavy individual circuitry, typically have heavy fifth line profile color tone, and or no, those are the two main things. Those are the two main things. The people that are rhythm people, you know where I look first?
Where?
Do they have the fifth gate
Oh,
defined or the
because
whole
I have
channel?
that. Mm.
The 515 channel is the
Ooh.
number one most common characteristic people have when people answer rhythm is more important to me than lyrics. I look 99.99999% of the time, they have the five defined. And typically it's hanging. But I started looking, so when I first, so I was at a music festival and I was
Uh-huh.
I was I was standing there dancing and watching music and whatever, and the music shifted to where it was like a slower song and it was more meaningful, and the lead person was singing these words that meant a lot to him. And the woman who was next to me, who I knew, she started to walk away. I was like, "Where are you going? This is a beautiful song." And she's like, "Oh, I don't care about the lyrics." I was like, "What?" She's like, "No, I just want to dance." I was
Oh,
like, "What?" I thought it was just her. And then over time, I'm like, "Oh no, wait. Right. Like you go to a rave, there's nothing in the lyrics in a rave, right?
yeah.
Most pop music, the lyrics aren't super meaningful. It's more about getting you to dance around.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, because to me, it was just, no, no, the lyrics are why you listen to music.
Yeah.
Right? And so I ask people this question, and yeah, like almost 100% of the time, someone who prefers the driving beat, the rhythm, and doesn't care about lyrics usually has gate five. And they'll typically also either have a lot of sensing circuitry defined, or they'll
Mm.
have more tribal circuitry defined.
Mm.
Um, and that will typically kind of lean a person more towards preferring the rhythm, because tribal circuitry, I think, is more like takes you to some of the earliest beginnings of the creation of music, which was typically
Exactly.
focused around drumming. The
Yeah,
drum is like one of the earliest instruments we ever created,
yeah,
right? And that was what called people together. Be like, hey, we're doing some sort of, there's an initiation happening, there's a community gathering, there's a ceremony, and they would bring in the drummers, and the drummers would drum, and people would hear it, and they would come from all over to be a part of whatever was happening in the community then. And
yeah,
so in the sensing circuit, you have a lot of that more abstract storytelling that comes through. And I feel like the sensing circuit could go either way with the lyrics or the rhythm. But I think because sensing circuit people often are just very like feely, you know, and feely in their body and
yeah,
less in their mind. And lyrics can be more mind focused. These are just broad general strokes. I'm not like saying this is how it has to be if this is the way, if this is what your chart looks like, but this is what I found. There's also, you know, in the logic circuitry on the other side of the collective stuff, you do have a lot with patterns. Like the 5 is part of that
mhm,
patterning
yeah,
circuitry. The 18 is part of the patterning, you know. But in so far in my research, I have found that that's not as prominent in being influential on whether or not someone prefers the lyrics over the
mm.
rhythm. It's usually that gate 5, the tribal circuitry, or some strong sensing circuitry.
I
So
I
that didn't
think this
really
is.
answer your question,
I'm
but
like, this is so fascinating. Can we just talk forever, please? Because
so so well, your original question was, what does music feel like for me as a 5/1, like through that
yeah,
lens? And well, this will take me to what I was telling you about earlier. So I
yes,
created a playlist. I created a playlist of songs all written by 5/1 profiles because as a 5/1, and if you're a 5/1 or have ever read any posts in any 5/1 communities on Facebook, you will know we are so upset a lot of the time about how upset people get with us. And you know, when will it ever end? Will it ever end? The projections, my oh
mhm,
my. And as I was beginning to do this like poking around at these ideas, I just started with the music that I like. I
yeah,
started with artists that I've always gravitated towards, or like I would just hear a song would come on my Spotify, or I'd hear a song at a party and a certain lyric will just grab me.
oh,
And I'd
yes,
be like, what is their design? And so, for example, Jim Morrison, the song, um, people are strange
yes.
when you're a stranger. I'm like, oh, if that is not a freaking 5/1, if he's not a 5/1, I don't know what he is. So I'm like, that song, I'm like, yes, Jim, you get me. Like, you understand. And sure enough, I look up his chart. He's a freaking 5/1, right? So I start going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah,
When it going back to the rhythm piece, I started looking up drummers, like drummers from rock and roll bands. I
yeah.
started there. Most of the time, they have the full 515 channel, or at the very least, they have the 5. The 5 gate. It is so just such a strong through line. It just carries through
Yeah,
when I'm looking at, and every drummer I know, as I've been doing this, like I said, for 2 years, I've kind of been low key doing this research, just asking people in conversation. I know a lot of
yeah.
musicians. I go to see a lot of music, and this just comes up in conversation because I can't not talk about it because I'm so excited about it. And
Thank
so
you.
everybody I know that's a drummer, I'm like, can I just look? Can I just pull up your chart real quick? I got the app on my phone. Let me just look. And, and now I have your chart forever.
With an evil
And
laughter. With an
right,
evil laughter.
right. And most people are like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't care. And yeah, it's like time and time again. Every person I know that is a drummer in a band, or they do like therapeutic drumming with like djembes and stuff, and they're just like into the rhythm, or if they're a DJ and like big into like that kind of scene,
Uh-huh.
that fifth gate, gate 5, the gate of freaking rhythm,
Need of
is
patience.
it is there. It is loud and proud, and it is not going anywhere. Um so with the 5-1, I feel like that's something that was just what I keyed in on right
Mm,
away. And I started looking at charts. So I had this one morning, this was like only a few months before I finally said, okay, I'm gonna do this podcast. A few
yeah.
months before I finally like started scheduling interviews and creating the stuff for it. I was in my kitchen and I was somewhere, I was rolling in my emotional wave for no real reason. I just was in a mood that day. And
Hmm.
typically, when I'm in a mood like that, there are only a handful of artists that I'm going to gravitate towards that I want to feel like validated or somehow comforted, or like they also have been in a similar mood and they've broadcasted through their music. So one of them is Fiona Apple. She's my like tried and true
Stop
diehard, like
it.
have
Oh,
loved her since the first time I saw her on MTV crawling around in the criminal video when I was like 14 years old. Um, Fiona
yes.
Apple is my mood music. Um, Amy Winehouse is my mood music.
Yes.
There's a few others, but those two are like my two main ones I go to when I'm in this kind of a mood.
Mm.
And so I'm listening to Amy Winehouse, I'm listening to Back to Black, and I'm just singing along. I'm just like crying in my kitchen, washing dishes, singing along to Amy Winehouse. And then I was like, she's got to be a 5-1. Let me look up her chart. She's a 5-1 emotional manifesting. Her chart is almost identical to mine in the layout and circuits, the channels and centers she has defined. She's a 5-1 emotional manifesting generator too. I
Whoa.
was like, oh, damn. I was like, if this, I'm like, this can't be just me. It
Uh-huh.
can't be just me where like I am so drawn to these other artists who have so much similarity in design.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna start doing this research. I'm just gonna start talking to people and just see like what is it? What is it about? Why do you like that music so much? Like we've already kind of, like by we I mean the royal cultural overarching we, like
Yeah.
anthropologists have already done a lot of this research, why we make music and why we listen to music. You
Hmm.
know, there's different reasons behind that. You know, part of it is for the community aspect, some of it is for storytelling and passing down history, you know,
Hmm.
oral history. Before we were writing stuff down, people told it in songs,
Yeah.
you know. um we do it for attracting mates or finding a mate, from something as like basic as the way like birds call
Hmm.
for a mate,
Yeah.
we also, we love that lead singer. Everybody loves the lead singer, right?
I kind of like I kind of never liked the lead singer. I always wanted to like root for the underdog. So I usually like had crushes on somebody else in the band.
There's something to that in your design
Uh-oh. I
too.
was like, oh no,
If
I just showed my ass. I'm sorry.
No, but like that's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, you probably, let me think. Maybe what are the rebellion, like Gate 39, Gate 18, there's a few other gates and channels in there that are the ones that are like, no, I'm gonna do the opposite of the status quo, right?
The
But
360. Maybe that's
right,
it.
there you go. But in general, like I'm just
Uh-huh.
speaking again in broad strokes, there's like the mating call thing. And then there's the emotional connection and emotional communication. that we
Hmm.
use music for. And so
Yeah.
like those are like the reasons we listen to music and the reasons we make music,
Mm.
right? But why but there's like I don't like all music.
Hmm.
And so some of it, is going to be cultural, right? Like what you were raised with or what kind of, what the other people you were around growing up listened to. Or like in your teenage years, you find music that you like and you find the other people that like that music and you all like that music together. It's like kind of just what you do.
Yeah.
Um and so it's like why was it that artist? Like, why did I like Fiona Apple and Amy Winehouse and Jewel, but at the same time, like there were other artists that I never got into in that era in like the
Yeah.
mid to late 90s? Why did I not like I didn't care for NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys or any of the other stuff that all the other girls my age because I also had the rebellious thing. So I'm like, I didn't listen to pop music.
Oh no.
But and again, Gate 18 is my unconscious moon. So it's like it's
Yes.
very strong in there. So I'm working myself in a circle and I'm not sure where I'm heading, but
You know
I'm
what?
looking around the curve.
I I think that that was just a I really loved hearing your experience. Just I mean, when you talk about all of the things that you've done with music and even like how you met your husband, all I see is your gate 29, your sun gate. You're saying yes to the things that light you up. And if that's not like living in your fucking purpose, I don't know what is. Like, I really love, I can see how excited you get when you say yes to something. And then the story just follows this, like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And just from a simple question is like, what does music feel like as a 5-1? We got to learn so much about you. And I could like literally sit here and listen to your stories for hours. I'm like, please tell me more, 5-1. Please.
I could talk for hours, so you just keep giving me questions to respond to. It'll keep coming out. So this whole project has just been really cool, and I've definitely learned a lot just hearing other people's experiences and perspectives and histories with music. And so it started out, most of the interviews I've been doing have been people that I know or people that I've met, whether
Yeah.
it's in person or online, that have like a strong passion for a specific artist.
Hmm.
And we pull up their charts and we just look and we say, what do we see? Like,
Yeah.
right, what's the commonalities? What's the through lines? I also like to pull in the astrocartography piece as well. So, and what I do is I cross pollinate the human design with the astrocartography. So I look at, okay, so hold on, let me rewind
I
for a
am
second.
so intrigued. I'm like, when are you
This,
creating a class? Because I'd like to sign up and pick your brain for as long as I possibly. I'm so please carry on.
so okay, so here's
Please.
here's my logic. This is like my logic on how the woo works. So in Reiki, we learn how to send healing energy over distance.
Mhm.
And not just distance in space, but also distance in time. You can send energy forward, you can send energy backwards, and it will be received as long as it is accepted.
Yes.
You can't force anyone to receive the healing energy if they don't want it. You can just send it, and then if they take it, they take it. If they don't, they don't, and that's the free will aspect. So with astrocartography, I learned that, and if you're not familiar with what this is, you can go to the website. I think it's called like Astro Horoscopes.
Astro.com.
I use I
Astro.com.
I use horoscopes.astroseek.com.
Ooh.
Um It's just a little bit different of a map,
Okay.
or different. So it's just a different website, but
Okay.
that's the one that I use to just. It's free. You just pull up your things. So
Sweet.
you can go to either one. You put in your birth information like you would, and you get this wild looking map of the world with all these lines all over it. So we have a line for each planet, but we also have a line for each planet in each aspect.
Mhm.
So we have the AC, the Sun AC line, we have the Sun DC, we have the Sun IC, and we have the Sun MC. So you have like there's like a bajillion lines. There's like 60 lines crisscrossing all over this map. And most people just look at it and they go like, I don't get it. I look at it and I go, ooh. Just like when I saw the human design chart for the first time, most people, it's my one line, just like, I don't know, my one line, my 18 sees the patterns, and I'm just like, oh, this makes sense. So with astrocartography, let's say your sun line goes through, well, I'm looking at yours right now. Your sun line, your sun
Oh.
MC goes through Boston.
Hmm.
So when you travel to Boston, there's going to be an energy that you feel there that is going to make it feel like you're seen for who you really are, for the way you truly shine, and that's somehow going to connect to your business, your purpose, your dharma in the world, right? So but we don't have to, like, you're out on in you're out west,
Yeah,
so
I'm
right,
in
you're like
Sedona.
in
Yeah.
you're in Sedona, so you're not gonna necessarily travel to Boston that often. So
Mhm.
we can tap into that energy remotely
Mhm.
through connecting with aspects of Boston. So if you have, say, a Celtics jersey, or you know someone in Sedona who's from Boston, they carry the energy of Boston with them. Or, for example, you could listen to music that was created by someone who was born in Boston, because even if they don't live in Boston now, because the location of where you were born is so important in the calculation of your own energetics and your energy expression,
Mhm.
that's how you could connect it with it. So with the understanding through Reiki that we can tap into energy across timelines, across
Mhm.
space, all of this sort of stuff. When someone creates a piece of music, even if someone created it 500 years ago,
Mhm.
they're whenever we create anything, we're imprinting it with our energetic signature.
Yeah.
And by putting it out into the world, there's this kind of implied consent saying, hey,
Mhm.
you can tap into my energy, my expression via the vehicle of this music. So for you, you could listen to music created by an artist who's from Boston and tap into that Sun MC line. So to reverse engineer it,
Yeah.
when I'm interviewing someone, I look at their astrocartography, and I look at where were the artists born that they said, when I asked them like which ones are your like favorites,
Yeah.
I look at where those artists were born, and
Mhm.
99.99999% of the time there is a prominent astrocartography line that goes right through the city where that artist was born on that person's astrocartography chart. So it just kind of seals the deal. And then like, your son is this, what was the gate? What's your sun gate again?
3.2.
Your sun gate 3. So when you listen to that artist's music who's from Boston, you're tapping into a deeper
Mm.
expression, a deeper connection with your gate 3. And so it all kind of like feeds in together, and it gets pretty heady and it can get pretty complicated. Like I said, I have notes on like I do all this research before these interviews, and I make these wild notes that make sense to me, but I don't think anybody else would understand.
Yeah.
But it pulls together. And so some of the common things that have emerged as I've done, let's see, I'm about to release episode 18. So
And
I've
what's the name of
done,
your podcast again?
it's called Music by Design.
Oh my God. Okay.
So easy. It's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music,
Yes.
any
I'm hugging
whatever
the shit
whatever.
out of you anytime I can right now. This is just gonna happen.
They are long. If you hadn't guessed, they are long podcasts. Some of them are like 2 hours long. My intros can sometimes get a little long, so you can usually like skip the first 20 minutes. But so I'm about to release my 18th episode. The last episode came out the day after my birthday, so I did a birthday episode where I looked at the charts of three other artists that have the same birthday as me, who coincidentally I'm very familiar with their music even before I knew that we had the same birthday. And so what this all kind of this one of the things that this all kind of pulls together is that what you like, what you are naturally gravitating towards
Mhm.
is a form of intuition,
Mm.
right? Like we don't think about our personal preferences as intuition, but it is because there is always something that you're being energetically pulled towards that is usually the energy of the music you like is doing one of two things.
Mhm.
It is either you're tapping into something that is making you feel seen. There's similarities. They have typically you'll see like parts of your incarnation cross are in their nodes, or their incarnation cross is your Venus and your Mercury. Like there's very strong personal planetary energy and nodal energy that crisscrosses
Mhm.
between artists. If not, I mean, sometimes I think episode 9, I interviewed a friend of mine. She loves Stevie Nicks. They have the same freaking birthday. Like it's just like, like that sort of a thing that just like, well, of course, like she's showing you through her music her flavor
Mm.
of the same energies that you also possess and are here to show the world. And it helps us to kind of ground in and just feel like, somebody gets us. The other side of the coin, though, is that there are also times where you may not have much in common energetically with the artist at all, but you've got 9 electromagnetics.
Mm.
And so, what I typically see that happening is I'll ask people, um, what was the music you loved when you were a teenager? Like when you were like 14, 15, 16 years old, you were coming into your own, you were individuating as a being, you were trying to be different and unique from your family. Um, you were forming friendships, puberty was happening, like all these things, and life is very confusing and challenging. What music really made you feel connected to something? Right, what artists lyrics reached out into your soul, what music really spoke to you? Typically that artist and you are going to have way more energetics in common, way more companionship energies
Mm.
in general.
Yeah.
This is again broad stroke. There are
Yeah.
exceptions to this, but and it also depends on like how honestly people are answering the question, or like sometimes people, this is something else, people are sometimes embarrassed to tell me what music they loved when they were young.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I will tell you, for a long time I would hesitate to tell you that Fiona Apple was my favorite artist,
Okay.
because she well she has been portrayed in certain ways. And I
Mhm.
mean, she has issues. She's OCD, she has anxiety, she has all these things. So she's not the most personable person when it
Mhm.
comes to like being a celebrity.
Yeah.
She's not like smile and wave for the camera. She's like, "Oh my god, there's too many people." She's also a 4-1. So she's kind of like she wants friends but also wants to be left alone. um
As a 2-4, I approve this message.
right. So um but she's a genius.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
she's she's incredible at her craft. Um, but she was portrayed, all kinds of ways in the media, and people have opinions about her and all this sort of stuff. And as I got older, I just don't care. I don't care. I love her music, and she's amazing. Um, but I used to hesitate to tell people that I liked her music, or like that I liked Sublime, or that, because I heard someone's opinion of it one time, and
Mm.
it now I feel like I have to hide the thing that I like a little because somebody had an opinion about it. And typically it's usually the thing we really loved when we were a teenager that we were most embarrassed by. It's just like that's just the way most people are, like, embarrassed to say that they loved Nick Carter, or that they loved the Hanson, or like whatever, input embarrassing 90s band here. Um but then the other question I ask people is, for like, as who you are now,
Yeah.
if you were to be stranded on a deserted island and an iPod with unlimited battery washed up on shore, like what one or two artists, because I know it's hard to pick one, what one or two artists' music would you want to have on that music? You could only have
Mm.
them. Like, it can't be a playlist of 50 different artists. Two
Yeah.
artists. Who would you pick? And often when I look at those artists' charts with the person I'm interviewing, we find that there typically tends to be this evolution away from the companionship energy into more of the electromagnetic energy.
Ooh.
Something that's going to help them feel more completed or expanded or evolved, because the electromagnetic, when you get an electromagnetic with someone, it's this go energy. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
time to create, time to move, time to go. Whereas the companionship is like comfortable, right?
Yeah.
So when you're 15, and and you're trying to figure out your place in the world, we need to be comforted during that time. Like, it's
Oh
just a
yeah.
rough time, right? And
Hmm.
so it's not as much about necessarily, like, you could be drawn to Insane Clown Posse, and there's something there that
Yeah.
is there for you beyond just the actual music itself. There's the energetics behind it. It could be a Garth Brooks, it could be whoever. It doesn't matter. Like, it's not about the genre.
Yeah.
It is a lot about that energetic pull. You get something pulls you in, and then that sends you down a trajectory of life, of discovering more music and more music and more music, and it sends you down this
Yeah.
path. So, there is often also a pull with the profiles. So, like I said, like, I found as a 5'1", I gravitated towards a lot of artists with 5'1" profiles.
Hmm.
But as I've gotten older and been on this evolutionary path and doing a lot of
Yeah.
healing with my 5 line,
Hmm.
I find that those artists and those songs don't speak as strongly to me now. I don't need them. I don't need to lean into them anymore, because I've been cleaning my projection field, and I've been waiting for my invitations, and I've been practicing saying yes to the correct things, and I've been riding my emotional wave, and I've been doing all the things, following my strategy and authority. And it does slowly shift my own personal preferences of what music I want to listen to.
Mm.
And I don't need the comfort and solace from the 5'1" music as much anymore. But it's still fun to listen to and be like, "Oh yeah, I get that."
Oh my gosh. So I love every single thing that you have said. And I love that before we started recording, we were talking about like our nerdiness with music and human design. And I admitted to you, the first person ever, that when I listen to music, I can see like the human design in the lyrics. And I have a question for you about that.
Okay.
Do you find that people who gravitate towards lyrics are mostly undefined or open solar plexus? Or have you taken that into consideration with all of the research that you've done?
I have, and that was one of the earlier kind of questions or theories I had was, are lyric people typically defined solar plexus people? The jury's still out on that. I think it's not so much about what the lyrics are saying, but how they're saying it. It's about the poetic nature
Mm,
of the lyrics, the
yeah.
depth of the lyrics, the abstract nature of the lyrics. I have found most of the people that I've interviewed on the podcast are defined solar plexus in
Okay.
general.
Okay.
Um, and we're talking about lyrics, and then when we're not talking about lyrics, they do tend to be undefined, just as just very general broad strokes. Of course, there is always exceptions to this rule, but I want to say yes, but I mean, I have such a small sample size
Yeah.
that I can't definitively say, but you know, I also, in addition to interviewing people that just like music, I also interview creators.
Yeah.
I interview musicians and songwriters as
Hmm.
well. Um, and I do see a difference in, yeah, just like the the type of music that it is, the quality of the music, the quality of the lyrics. It just hits different when it's coming from a defined solar plexus. It
Is
just hits
Fiona,
different.
is Fiona defined?
Yes, she's the 1222.
Oh,
So
well,
is,
of course. Duh.
yes, so is Jewel.
I'm like, wait a minute, of course.
I did an episode in, I don't remember. I think it was episode 13 or 12 where I did a solo episode then too where I talked about my very very first was Jewel. I was given a CD of hers, and that CD, The Pieces of You, was what inspired me to learn how to play guitar and start singing. Like, I didn't play guitar or sing really
Uh-huh.
before I received that album. And that album hit me in so many ways
Hmm.
that as my 15-year-old self, I didn't even know that there were, like, I didn't even know, like, also, I was the only defined solar plexus in my family of origin, and I have the
Okay.
59-6. And so I was gaslit, I was suppressed, I was told I was too sensitive,
Oh,
all these things.
I'm so
I
sorry.
was like just had all this emotional confusion and low key trauma around like the things I was feeling and that I wasn't supposed to be expressing, and I didn't know how to, and I wasn't given like space for that. And so
Yeah.
music became a space where I started to understand, oh, I'm not the only person that feels these things. And that Jewel album was like, there are very adult themes in that,
Yes,
in
there
the
are.
in the lyrics of those songs in that album.
Hmm.
And a lot of them went over my head because I didn't know what she was referring to, but I felt the feeling of it. I could understand what she was getting across through the emotionality of the lyrics and the way she played the guitar. And it was so like beautiful in a sad way, that kind of like
Yeah.
sad beauty. And I was like, this is incredible. I want to learn how to play this song. And so uh little quick plug for my podcast. I have a Patreon, and it's patreon.com/music by design. And on there, like, I post the charts because I
Mm,
don't do video, I just do all audio, but I
yeah.
make these little write-ups and I post the charts of the people I interviewed and the musicians we talked about. And so for the episode where I did my solo episode with Jewel, I actually recorded um, me playing the first song I ever learned to play on guitar and like recorded it new. I haven't played guitar much, but I
Yeah.
my husband has one, so I just grabbed it. I played it a couple times. I hit record here on my microphone and I made it was the first song I ever learned, and it was the most beautiful one, and I loved it, and I still love it. I could still play it and sing it. I know all the words, and that was what launched me into like learning how to play the guitar. And so that's posted in the Patreon for all my paid members. They get
Oh,
they get my little very vulnerable recording of the first song I ever learned on guitar. And so it's a very personal journey. And
yeah.
throughout this past year since I started this podcast, I've gone through a lot of big changes. And I mean, any listener that has followed along has been with me on the full roll of my emotional wave um as I was basically told I had to leave my house that I was living in, and had to figure out other things, and then we wound up buying a house and it wound up working out and everything's great, but it was very, I mean, the 59.6 is usually pretty steady as she goes in
Yeah.
general, but when something affects my ability to provide, I feel like the tribal channels are very rooted in basic needs of safety and
Mhm.
security and food, clothing, shelter.
Yeah.
And my shelter was taken away from me, and it sent me into a low cycle, and so people following along for the last year have kind of been on the ride with me, and then we finally came out on the other side, and it's been really really cool to kind of
Yeah.
go on that journey with people kind of witnessing it. And I just went on a little rant there, but
I'm here for it. I am so
yeah.
here for it
But yeah,
all.
but yeah, Jewel is also a 1222.
Mm,
Jewel and I think it was, or no, Fiona Apple and Amy Winehouse were born one day apart, but like several years apart.
yeah.
But they have the same incarnation. No, because Fiona Apple's a 4-1, so she's a juxtaposition
Yeah.
cross. But her and Amy Winehouse have basically the same Sun and Earth gates,
Mm.
which I found fascinating too. Amy is a 59.6 though. She's like me. So, yeah, the 1222 is very attractive to me in my listening experience, just without knowing it ahead of time. That tends to pull me in a lot. I also see a lot with the nodes, the nodal placements.
Hmm.
Whatever your nodal placements are, typically that's a strong common energetic with the artists that you like, or vice versa. We often see it mirrored in the incarnation cross. So your sun and earth gate might be their unconscious nodes, or vice
Yeah.
versa, and it kind of crisscrosses around. I
Hmm.
also see a lot with the Venus gates and the Mercury gates playing a
Ooh.
prominent role. So it's
Oh.
often the artist's Mercury gate will be a pretty prominent gate for you, the listener, or um, your Venus gate might be a prominent gate in their design. Because,
Ooh.
Mercury has a lot to do with the words,
Yes.
right? The communicating of the idea, the communicating
Mhm.
of the emotion,
Yep.
the message. And then Venus is very closely linked with the creative arts, music, the things that we find beautiful, our
Mhm.
values. And then if you're into the gene keys and you do your Venus sequence,
Hmm.
she plays a very big role in that time period when you are evolving into the adult you're going to become starting at age 14. And so I found this evolving through the podcast as I just was asking this question, like, what did you like when you were a teenager? Not even registering the piece about, not even connecting that until later, the piece about that's the age when you start that third and final 7-year cycle.
Yeah.
That is your
EQ?
I think it's the
Is it
yeah,
the
it's
IQ? I think it's the
the
IQ.
IQ. It's the
Yeah.
IQ. It's like the more mental part.
Yes.
Um and yeah, and that's like a big piece too. So like when I look at your chart, so when I'm looking at two charts, I just kind of first I look at the incarnation crosses of like I'm looking at your incarnation cross and I'm looking at Jim Morrison's incarnation cross. I'm like, okay, okay, okay. Nothing's really jumping out at me right off the bat. Okay, then I look at your nodes and I look at his nodes. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, look at that. His unconscious sun and earth are your unconscious north and south node. Oh, there we go. There's that.
Mhm.
Um, so there's
So that's the
that.
22, right?
Yeah, he's 47.1 and 22.1 in
Mm.
his sun and earth on the design side. You're
Oh, nice.
47.2 and 22.2 in your nodes on the design side.
Does he have the 1222?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
I I love the 1222. I love when it's electromagnetic with somebody, and I have it with you because you have the 12 and I have the 22.
Mm-hmm.
There is something so freeing about that channel when you get to hear somebody when they're in that zone, when they're following their strategy and authority, and they say the thing that everybody else wishes they could. Like, there's a part of me that's like, fuck yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Do it. Like, I am so here for that freedom. And like, when I electromagnetic with somebody with like my best friend has the 12 and I have the 22. We used to be in the squad car together. She was my field training officer when I was still the police. Literally would talk to me for 8 hours and then get on the phone with me and talk to me even longer. She's a 4-6 emotional manifesting generator, by the way. Love, love, love her. But I just that 12 and that 1222, there's just something like it's just so freeing. It just makes my heart sing when I love it.
So something that I do that I found out not everybody does, and I think this is linked to the 12. And I have the 12 hanging, and
Mhm.
with my fifth line profile, I have a lot of I need to make sure that I said the right thing, sort of a thing. Um
Mhm.
when I'm obsessed with voice notes, like on if I'm gonna talk to a friend, I would much rather send them a voice note than send them a text so that they can hear
Yes.
the inflection in my voice and they know what I mean. You know, there's no sarcasm font, there's no like, you know, whatever.
Yes.
And I get misunderstood in the written word way more often than I do when I'm actually talking to you. So I send voice notes, but I always listen to the voice note back right after I've sent it.
Really?
And it's like not, sometimes I'm like, is this like a Leo thing? Is this me just like being full of myself? But it's not. It's just, it helps me to hear, I guess, all the pieces sometimes. I don't
Mhm.
know. Like, I don't know. Apparently, other people just record a voice note and just send it and don't ever listen to it again. I don't know. I go back, I like immediately listen to it back. It's like I'm having the conversation because I'm kind of having a conversation with myself. I
Mhm.
don't know. That's just, I think that's a 12 thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love voice notes over texting, and I have found like I don't know if you feel the same way, but like now that I'm in my 40s, I don't want to text you all the time. Call me. I want to hear your voice. I
Mm.
want to know how you're feeling. Like I love that. Like I don't like I said, like I don't listen to the voice notes unless I think I fucked up. And I'm like, oh, let me see what I said.
I
But
think, well, my voice notes tend to be like 12 minutes long.
oh yeah, mine
So sometimes I forget where I started. So I don't want to like repeat myself in the next 12-minute long voice note. Um, back to Jim Morrison and you. The
are.
other
Okay.
thing, so after I see this like nodal placement
Mhm.
in, you know, with his sun and earth, I'm like, okay, I could stop right there. That is enough, and that's one of the most common companionship energy like configurations that I have seen in all of these charts that I've looked at.
Mhm.
But if I want to keep looking, then the next place I look is I look at your Mercury and I look at your Venus gates. And oh, what do I see here? Oh, look, your unconscious Venus is gate 5 and his conscious sun is gate 5.
Mhm.
So there's another big pull. So what the way I see it, the way I read it is that your physical self
Yeah.
is rooted in this gate 5 energy of
Mm.
rhythm, right? The natural rhythms of life.
Yeah.
He's here to show you, to bring
Mhm.
light and bring consciousness to this aspect of yourself that is helping you to have what's the word? The I've lost it. What's the word? Not distinction, discernment.
Okay. I was like
I
going
knew it
through.
was, I knew it would come eventually because Venus is helping you to discern like what's worth fighting for, what do you truly value, what are the things that are the most valuable things for you to consistently carry through your life in your physical self.
Yeah.
And he's broadcasting out through his sun energy his version of what that could look like for you. And so there's like this deep peace within your physical self. It's not a mental thing
Yeah.
at all. This is your physical body. And because the nodal placements in the sun and earth are also both on the design side, it's like this is like you didn't consciously choose Jim Morrison. It's like you heard his music and you have this visceral reaction
Hmm.
to this mirroring that's happening. And it and you love it. And so this is like part of the like the thing. This is part of what comes through when we're looking at these charts, and it's just really cool. And there are patterns overall that I see, but also at the end of the day, it's just it's just everybody's flavor is a little bit different. And it just reinforces that we are all super unique, right? And I come back around to, and the things that you love, when I ask you what that music is, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Do not second guess it because it is your intuition. It's going to take you down this conversation that for a lot of people at the end of these interviews, they're like, holy crap, that was healing.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even my intention in the onset. I'm just curious. It's all get out.
Yeah.
I'm just collecting the data. And in the process, people are connecting in with parts of themselves that they took for granted or never even thought to look at twice.
Miss Anna.
Miss Maureen.
I I wrote notes. Like that's how much I just simply adore this experiment, this podcast that you have. I want to invite you to come back on and talk again
For another 2 hours.
for another 2 hours. Yeah. Maybe I'll actually hit record at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Who knows?
That I advise that. I do that all the
I
time. Just
know.
hit
Oh my God.
record and then edit out later.
We were like 10 minutes in, and I was like, Maureen, why didn't you just hit play? Why? Why did you not do that? And I was like, you know what? That's okay. That's okay. It's gonna be fine. I know in my soul that there are going to be people who are going to want to know more about you and what you do in this experiment and your podcast and the socials and the email and all the things. Please let us all know how we can get in contact with you and listen to this podcast because I have not listened to it yet, but guess what Maureen is going to do after she says goodbye to you? It's going to be on play from the beginning, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to listen to them straight through
Yeah,
because
if you've
who
got
I
a
am
lot
as a
of
person.
time. Because, like I said, they're anywhere from an hour to 2 hours long.
Listen, I work from home and I only have
Yeah,
one thing to do tomorrow.
cool.
So,
So, if I were gonna typically the if I was gonna recommend one episode for you to listen to. They're
Yes.
all phenomenal. I highly recommend whatever you're interested in, if there's a specific artist, or just read the titles, because I typically kind of like put a little bit like what the main gist of the episode is in the title
Mhm.
and who I'm talking to. Sometimes I'm speaking with people who are human design folks like yourself, and we
Mhm.
can have very like elevated conversations about music and human design like we did tonight.
Yeah.
Um, and other times I'm speaking with people who know nothing about human design, but they have been making music for their entire lives and they're very, very deep in it. And sometimes it's both.
Yeah.
Um, but I love episode 9.
Okay.
Episode 9 with my friend Meg Thomas. I referred to it earlier. We talk about her connections with Stevie Nicks and Trevor Hall. And
Ooh.
it's a good one. And she's a member of the community here where I live. She does sound healing and breath
Mhm.
work and all kinds of beautiful offerings at a local place here in Syracuse.
Yeah.
Um, she also has a podcast of her own called Emotional Expedition. She's a huge
Mhm.
Brene Brown fan. We geeked out on Brene Brown a bunch. So that's a wonderful episode. I highly recommend. I also really love the birthday episode I just came out with, episode 17, because
Okay.
it's different. It's a bit different from a lot of the other ones.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, I mean, they're all so good. They're all so good. What I really, really love, and this wasn't really my intention at the beginning. Like again, this was just I just needed a platform to do this research and have these conversations.
Yeah.
So I just did it. But it's turned into, oh, we're teaching about human design, but without doing the formulaic thing that everybody does, where
Yep.
episode 1 is about the types, episode 2 is generators, episode 3 is, and don't get me wrong, no shade, that's great. That's how I the first bunch of podcasts I ever listened to about human design, I went through from the beginning, and it's very useful to hear different people's perspectives on each of the types and each of the profiles and all that stuff, and you
Yeah.
just kind of very methodically go through them. This manifesting generator starts at the end and works her way backwards.
Yes.
And so like in episode 15 with my friend Amara Grace, she and I were partners in our certification in our level 1 with quantum alignment system, and that's how we met.
Yeah.
And we dove so deep into the 6124 channel
Stop it.
and in her love of the artist that she loves, and we really, like, because I don't have either of those gates defined.
Mhm.
I've read about it, but I'm like, okay, I don't it doesn't I have a totally undefined head, so I'm just
Yeah,
like,
you do.
I don't know what is going on up there. Stuff comes in sometimes. um but with her, she has uh I think 8 out of 9 centers defined.
Oh shit.
She has a lot of definition in her chart, and she's got that 6124. And
Hmm.
so we just dove so deep into that, and I got healing in that episode
Oh,
around
lovely.
my relationship to God.
Yeah. I mean that if any channel is gonna do that for
That's
you.
Now I feel like I understand that channel in a way that I couldn't I you can't read about, like, you
Oh,
can't get
I
it from
love
just
that.
reading it in any of the books or even taking a course. The depth we went into in that channel in
Oh,
that episode was incredible. And there's certain channels that come up all the time. 2838, the 2838 comes up a lot in music. That fight, that
yeah,
struggle,
38's my moon.
I find a lot of
Mm.
songwriters have the 2838, and they are writing about their freaking struggles and how
See,
they overcame them. It's a big theme. It's not
see,
everywhere, but it's a big theme.
I would think that more songwriters would have more definition in their head in ajna.
Some, but not all. I think episode 6 with my friend Michelle, we talk about Fallout Boy.
I love Fall Out Boy.
So the I forget what his name was, it Pete Wentz?
Pete Wentz.
Pete
Yeah.
Wentz was the main
Bassist.
songwriter. He's
Mm.
defined Head and Ajna, and I read a bunch of stuff where he talked about his songs. So this is why I like interviewing creators, because I ask them, how does it come to you? I'm looking at their chart. Are they undefined in the head and ajna? Are they defined in the head and ajna? So Pete Wentz, he filled notebooks. He just wrote stream of consciousness day and night, in and out.
Uh,
He wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And he also had, like, a bipolar meltdown at some point
yeah.
and almost tried to kill himself. And his Saturn return was like
Yeah.
everything in life exploded on him during his Saturn return. But he had that outlet for that stream that's just always coming through.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else that has an open head and ajna, undefined head and ajna, it just strikes when it strikes. That's what I hear over and over and over again when I ask them, do you have a process? How does it come through? What is it like? They're like, no, there's no process. I just wait. And then it hits me.
Ah, that's
And
so
it's
interesting.
it is. It's almost textbook, like what we talk about when we were learning about the centers and how that expression works.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's why I love I'm starting the last I still have to record the last like 6 episodes of the year, but
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to get more creators in for those last 6 episodes before I take a little break. So if people want to listen, they can listen
I'm just about to
anywhere.
say, girl, get it.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna be another hour here. You can make this a two-parter or whatever. Uh, so on Instagram and anywhere where you might possibly find me on the internet, it's at Anna with Intention to reach me. Um, my podcast, I promote it via my Anna with Intention channel, so
Mhm.
it doesn't have its own Instagram page. I don't have enough thumbs for managing that many Instagram pages. So all my music by design stuff is filtered through Anna with Intention. The podcast is called Music by Design. It's on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music. It's on other places too. People listen to, I don't know where, but I listen to all my stuff on Spotify. Uh, I have a YouTube channel. You can poke around on there. There's not a whole lot on there, but there's a few fun things. I've got an Om Tare mantra that I made. I think
Oh,
there's a Ho'oponopono
mm,
song that I made. If you like
nice.
Ho'oponopono, there's another one that I'm working on right now, and music by design at patreon.com/music by design if you want to kind of check out the charts that go along with the episodes. And yeah, feel free, you can send me a message on Instagram. It might take me a day to get around to responding you or whatever, because I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. But yeah, I have an email thing, but I haven't sent an email out in a long time. It's a little rusty. I'm just kind of like, my life got so turned upside down in the last 9 months that
Yeah.
a lot of stuff got kind of just put on hold, and I just kept the podcast going. So
Mm,
that's the best way to kind of connect in with me and know what's going on. And if you're in the central New York, upstate New York area, there's
yes.
events. I got an event coming up in 2 weeks that I'm going to be at, and workshops that I like to do over the winter time and little things like that. And yeah,
Mm.
I'm friendly.
You are. I have had an absolutely fucking fantastic time talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dogs
Same.
not so happy with me, but they'll live.
They'll be
And
okay.
I have one more question from
Oh,
a lyric person to a lyric person.
mhm.
What is what are what are some of your favorite lyrics that really hit you in the heart?
Um,
What can you give?
my fallback answer is always a Fiona Apple song.
Love it.
Most of her songs I freaking love, but the lyric that always I think stands out to me too, it's like it speaks to my emotional definition is um the lyric "Let the damn breeze dry my face."
Mm.
I love that lyric. I also love the song Extraordinary Machine as the exemplary manifesting generator song. I just Extraordinary Machine, it's got like the same amount of syllables as manifesting generator.
I
Um, that song, I be kind to me or treat me mean, I'll make the most of it. I'm an extraordinary machine. It's such a good song. It's a great album.
yes.
Um, I mean, she's so crafty with her words. There's
Paper
a
bag.
newer
Paper bag.
Paper Bag is right. Have you listened to any of her newer stuff? Some of her newer albums are a little
Ooh.
funky. There's
Okay.
like some, she gets a little weird,
I mean,
but
I'm here for the weird. I'm here for the weird.
there's one song called I think it's called Hot Knife, and
Oh,
it's mostly a cappella, and she's playing a little bit of drums at the
okay.
beginning, like she's like playing like a big like timpani kind of a
Hmm.
drum,
Yeah.
and then she comes in with the piano later, but she's layering her own vocals within it.
Oh, I love it.
And if I'm butter, if I'm butter, if I'm butter, then he's a hot knife. He makes my heart a cinemascope screen showing dancing bird of paradise. He excites me like
I
a passion in rhythm. It's just like it's got a swing to it that I
Mhm.
really love,
Oh yeah.
and like just if I'm butter, then he's a hot knife, and it just the imagery, and
Oh,
I
right.
love
I'm like, oh, that sounds like
it's good.
nice.
Go listen to Hot Knife. Watch the music video. It's very simple. It's like black and white. She's just like it's just her black and white in a thing.
Oh,
But yeah, I dove really deep into researching and watching interviews with her because I thought I was gonna do her for my birthday podcast, and I wound up
yeah.
not, but I probably will do one on her, maybe as like a semi finale, second to last episode or something, because she is such a big deal to me. And yeah, there's a lot. She has a lot of background and a lot of history, but I think the next episode comes out this Friday.
Okay.
I'm interviewing a good dear friend of mine, Stephanie. She's a yoga
Hmm.
teacher, and her and I
Nice.
met at a music festival.
I love it.
And it's a really good episode. And then after that, I interview a friend of mine who's a astrologer, and
Ooh.
we just geek out on James Taylor.
Okay.
So, and I saw him live in June, so there was a nice like full circle moment there.
Oh my God. Yeah. So everybody, I need you right now to go to Spotify to follow Anna's podcast, then go on Instagram and follow her on Instagram, and then get completely nerdy with us with human design and music. Anna, I have just like my cheeks hurt. I've been smiling so much. Like
Well,
I
that's why I
could
reached
literally,
out to you.
I
I reached
just,
out to you because I saw you talking about Britney Spears' chart. I'm like,
oh
oh,
my
I talk
God.
about in episode 16, we talk about Britney Spears and Taylor Swift
Oh my God.
and Lana Del Rey.
I
And then
love her cover of Summertime. Have you like that's literally on my I have I'm really trying to end this, but I can't stop
no.
myself.
So I'm gonna, as my gift to you and your community, I'm gonna give you the link to my private Spotify playlist of my 5-1 profile playlist. And y'all could just listen to the gears turn
Oh
and
my God. I'm thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I'm gonna say goodbye
yeah.
to everybody before we go on another tangent because it's I need to feed my dogs too. They're looking.
Yeah. I gotta go to bed, so it's fine.
Oh, that's right. You're 3 hours. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I'm like the worst at time zones. Oh my gosh. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you so much for being here and listening to this amazing woman do what she loves. Oh my God, just the passion in her voice. I'm going to stop because I feel a little creepy stalker about it, but I just think you're absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy, busy life to get nerdy with me. It means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much.
Maureen, thank you so much for having me on. This is the type of conversation I live for. And feel free to send me a 10-minute long voice note anytime you want. I'm here for it,
No.
and I will reciprocate, and we can be voice note friends.
Oh my God, I love
Um,
it. All
yeah,
right,
well,
ladies and gentlemen, we Audi 5000. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Oh